You're tuned in to Fork Podcast. This week we're talking to Luca Santalucia, 20-year-old bodybuilder and athlete with massive vision and mindset for success.
I was just so depleted and tired and exhausted. I remember that feeling where I was just hopeless. I put it all on the line. I wanted to quit so bad. I was obsessed. I was obsessed with the process, but I was done.
Hi, I'm Sean Chris Lewis, and welcome to Fork Podcast. Today, I am here with the one and only, the beast, actually the gentle beast. His name is Luca Santalucia. And I gotta say, I've been looking forward to this podcast. He's coming off a big high right now, and you're gonna hear all about what's going down with this cat. So, Luca, welcome to Fork Podcast.
What's up, Sean? I'm so pumped to be here, man. I've been looking forward to this.
Yeah, I know you have, man. When we talked at the gym about doing it, you were fired up. You said, yeah, let's do this. And listen, I got this bracelet on, win the day.
Yes, sir.
Team Santalucia.
Yes, sir.
And tell me a little bit about this bracelet. What inspired that?
All right, definitely. Okay, well, I'll start off by saying it was completely impulsive, okay?
Yeah.
So I always had the idea, maybe I'll get some t-shirts made, maybe some hoodies. But the reality of it was when I was on prep, I was borderline brain dead, no carbs, didn't have the energy to really sit down with a graphic designer, and it's something I really wanted to do. So it's up in the air, so expect it. It will be coming in the future. I'm off prep, so expect a t-shirt coming out soon. So I was kind of just doing my cardio like every other morning. And I actually thought about it. I was like, you know what? I want a band to go with my my Apple Watch right now. And I walked into Sport Expert and I was just looking for those Live Strong Nike bands. They looked at me like, what are you talking about? Like that's been out of the picture for years now, So I was like, you know what? I'm going to make my own. Within 3 minutes on my drive home, I found the website, the first link that I found, and I just went, let's go, Team Santalucia. And I literally wrote on my chalkboard when the first day of my prep, win the day, okay? Because when I first started...
Where's your chalkboard?
In my room, okay? So right next to my bedroom, I have this huge chalkboard, maybe like 7-8 feet tall, and I just write down a bunch of stuff on it. Anything that's important to me, I just jot it down every morning, And the first thing I wrote when I started my prep was, win the day, let's go. Preps, I think it was about 17 weeks this time around. And you're like, where do you start? You're thinking of the end goal. How do you look your best? You just got to start by winning the day by day. If you go win every day, you have a fighting chance at winning the war, Yeah.
Everything that you're saying right now, we know that is one of the keys to success, right? Writing down your goals.
Yeah.
That's something. I'm just reading a book presently, and number 1 on the list was write down your goals. You're more likely to hit your targets if they're written down. So tell me about that chalkboard, man. That sounds super interesting. Do you do this with other aspects of your life?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Even in my other preps, it was actually whiteboards and everything. Like I had just renovated my room, but I've always had papers lying around, whiteboards. Even I have little cupboards that in my room that I actually painted with chalkboard paint and stuff too. And I just write everything. It's like motivation when I wake up, reminders. And I'm someone, I don't like spreading myself wide. I'm someone, I like reading a lot into these things and stuff too. I'm super passionate about people that are good at anything. If a girl likes playing the violin and I get the goosebumps playing it, I'm about it,
Yeah.
Like a tennis player, it could be an artist, it could be a ballet. If you're passionate about it, I'm about it, but I was always intrigued as to why are these people the way they are?
Yeah.
What makes them so good? How can I be like that? And I always had that fire since I was younger, really emotional towards it. I was I couldn't understand why.
Yeah. I feel your energy, man, across the table. Because since your competition this past weekend, which we're going to talk about right now, your energy is just through the roof, man. You would think that after the training and the nutritional restrictions going up to the event, and you'd think that you'd just be hitting a wall right now, but you're not hitting a wall. In fact, I think you're prepping into something else right now. Anyways, I won't speak for you. So tell me about this weekend.
This weekend coming up right now. The past weekend coming up.
Man.
All right. So basically this is actually something I've experienced with all my shows really. You know, like prep gets really rough, man. It gets really dark. You got to pretty much feel the worst you've ever felt to look the best you've ever looked before. And I truly believe that, you know, that last 2 to 4 weeks of prep, if you don't feel like you want to die at every second of the day, you're doing something wrong.
Yeah.
And that's the truth, you know, like my ears block just walking around because your body fat's so low. I think I burnt the fat under my feet because I measured myself, and I was like, the first time I measured myself under 5'8". Sorry, ladies, I'm a little short.
I'm short, dude. I'm the short guy.
And it's just painful, man. You know, it's like it could be plus 40 outside. It's minus 30 in my head. You know, the sun's out. I had my North Face on, like sleeping, you know,
Yeah.
Uggs out in the sun, you know, but
You know, it's funny. I'm looking at you and I'm feeling like I'm sweating here because I just did a HIIT class downtown, bolted over here to do the podcast. You come running in. You're coming in from the gym, and this room is stinking hot because I can't have the ambient sound of the air conditioning. So we're both like boiling in here, guys. So if you see us sweating, it's like we're not nervous, man. We're just hot.
Absolutely not. For sure. For sure. So yeah, back to where I was coming from with that. So that's the whole aspect. Like that's the dark side of it. But then once I get into like my peak week, that's when everybody's still dying. But that's when I realized, you know, the work's done, man. Like I just got to stick to the plan right now. I'm a robot at this point. I'm riding a wave, you know, the job's done and I'm proud. And that's what I love about bodybuilding. You show up the day before a show, you go to a registration, and you could see in people's faces, you could see fear when you got a glaze on, you got the lights on you, you could tell who cheated on their diet and who did it. You know what I mean? And you know, win or lose, I'm somebody who's super competitive, but there's something about this sport that I will never be disappointed with an outcome, because I know I'll never step on stage knowing I didn't give 110, you know? Yeah. And I get to eat cake after regardless.
I saw the calories, man, going down after that show. Like you ate like a week's worth of calories in a couple of hours.
I absolutely don't regret it.
So listen, man, tell me about your placings in that competition. You did extremely well.
Yes, super fair in all. In the junior bodybuilding, I'd finished first, which I was super proud, and I'd finished second in my other two categories, which was middleweight bodybuilding and classic physique as well. You know, in the middleweight bodybuilding, honestly, the placings were super fair. It was a 45-year-old man, you know, muscle maturity. He looked incredible. You know, he had been competing since he was 19 as well. So much respect for him. We were talking backstage too, and he had some really nice things to say, man. He was like, "You have a bright future, kid, man. Just stick to it." I was still on cloud 9 from that. You know, definitely not disappointed by those second places.
Yeah, no, second place. Come on, you're competing across a broad spectrum of people. Yeah. Congratulations, Luca. Honestly, it's tremendous. And you had just mentioned that as a kid that you were pretty active and you were pretty competitive as well. And tell me a little bit about your past and leading up to, you know, who you've become today.
Yeah, definitely. So honestly, as far as I can remember, I've always been active. You know, I was skating at 2, playing hockey at 3, you know, playing competitive soccer as well. So basically my whole life, I was always playing sports. Even in school, if I could hop on a freaking badminton team, I was there. I was about it. I just like competing and I love training. You know, it's always been a part of my life. Training as well, you know, it also comes from my parents. Definitely, you know, my mom was an aerobics instructor growing up. My dad's nickname was the Beast growing up. I think he was like benching 2 plates at 12.
I called you the Beast to start off the podcast.
It's crazy. I came from somewhere, you know. Definitely, he plays a huge role in it too, you know. And I can't see my life without it. Even after bodybuilding, I could honestly say like my goal is to run an Ironman. If I ever have kids and stuff like that, like Ironman marathon, like this is what I do. Like I love fitness. It's not even just about muscles. It's like I just like pushing myself every day.
Yeah, yeah. But you'd mentioned to me that when you were younger, you actually had a heart condition.
Yes. Actually, when I started, the last year I was playing hockey, you know, I was pushing myself, I was training, and then I started feeling like a little off, you know, like I started like getting palpitations when I was training, and there was no like correlation between episodes, you know, like I was somebody, like I like stimulants as well, like pre-workouts, I like taking a bit of caffeine, I like getting amped up, I like getting in it, getting hot and sweaty. But it wasn't that. I would take them, they would still happen. And I would take them and I was good. And I was like, so that's not the problem, you know? Then, long story short, once I was actually going to the children's hospital, being followed up for years, actually, for a couple of years. I did all the tests multiple times and they didn't find anything. I did the stress test. I think I almost broke the record there. They were like, yeah, you don't have a problem, man. Like, what are you talking about? So I was like, I guess I don't have a problem. So, but then after, it was eating at me. I was eating at me because I'm somebody who was highly competitive and I knew I wasn't at my 100%, you know? So then one night I went out downtown with my friends, had a couple of drinks and stuff like that. We're just dancing around, having a good time. And a buddy of mine, he was bigger. He was like over 200 pounds for sure, you know? And again, just for fun, like I just picked him up and I tossed him as a joke. It was something like that. And I triggered a palpitation. I was like, ooh, this doesn't feel too good, you know? Didn't say anything. Didn't want to be that guy. Didn't want to make a scene. So I just took a step out. Luckily, I was just sitting there and there was an ambulance just parked in the alley right next to it. I literally just walked up to it casually. I knocked on the window. I was like, yo guys, what's up? My chest isn't feeling too good. You guys just like checking my heart rate out right now. Like, see what's going on? Yeah, for sure. Come in. They check it out. My resting heart rate was 260. So they're like, wait, what the hell is going on right now?
And just so people understand, about 60 beats per minute is pretty much the norm.
Yeah.
260 beats a minute.
Yes, absolutely. So basically, and at that time they look at me and they're like, okay, so what drugs did you take? What are you on? This and that. I was like, absolutely nothing.
How old were you at the time?
How old was I then? I think I was like 17 years old, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, so there was absolutely no stimulants that I had taken that day, no steroids, nothing like that. So I looked at them and was like, yeah, nothing. Well, they said, you got to stop lying to us or you have a serious problem, you know? So they're like, well, if this doesn't stop in a few minutes, like you're dead, you know? For some reason, I was like pretty chilled out about it. I don't know why, because
you were 17.
Yeah, honestly, I was just like, well, rip, you know? So they brought me to the hospital and they're like, they did a few tests and it was the first time at least they were able to get it on record. Like from all the times I was at the children and stuff like that, you know, and actually I remember exactly, it was the month I had just turned 18. So my files had just gotten, I was able to transfer them to the Institute of Cardiology as well. So luckily I went there, they transferred my files over and I met with an amazing doctor, Dr. Rival. She was from France. And she realized I'm an 18-year-old kid and I wasn't going to stop training, you know, regardless of what was going on. So she sat me down with my parents and she said, okay, well, there's a serious issue going on here right now. So we're going to hospitalize you for 3 days and we're going to do every single test in the book until we come to the bottom of this, you know? So we're going to do your stress test again. We're going to go do the EKGs again, you know? And if we don't find it, we're going to do a straight catheter ablation, go in through the legs and find out what's going on, you know? So that's what they ended up doing, you know. So they put me under. Basically, what the procedure was supposed to be an hour, it took 6. So they were able to find it. They injected me with adrenaline, and I think my heart rate shot up to like 310 right away. So they had put me out, and they were able to find that I had irregular heart cells in like my left ventricle and stuff. And apparently there was a new robot that had just coming out that, thank God for technology, you know? So they were trying to figure out, okay, are we going to burn or are we going to freeze these cells that we have, you know? And it wasn't a sure thing. My mom was freaking out, you know, this whole time. Yeah. So then after I still remember waking up and I'm looking, I'm all like confused, you know? And I just asked, I was like, so I'm like, am I fixed? Like, am I good to go right now? You know?
Can I go train?
You know? And they're like, yo, you're all good. It legit felt like a 10 pounds fell off my back. It was like my life started all over again. You know, it was crazy. I still remember that feeling.
Wow. So it's all fixed at that point. Could you get back to how long did you have to recover from that?
All right. So this is the crazy thing where a lot of people don't believe me. Okay. Within 7 days, I was hitting PRs in the gym.
PRs. What's like, a PR?
So like a personal record. It's like
personal record, folks.
The doctor was like, he said, you know what? It's okay. I had gotten internal bleeding in my leg and stuff right after the procedure. It wasn't a big deal. It hurt a bit, but it was okay. But he said, you know what? As long as everything healed, like the stitching heals up and whatnot, you're ready to go, you know? So he said, just try to take a week off, you know, then get back in it slowly. I felt amazing. On cloud 9 because my life just started all over again, and I I ran with it since.
Oh man, that's a great story.
And my mom, she's gonna kill me when I say this too. My first question to the doctor was, "So can I take pre-workout again?" Or
yeah, I remember when I was a kid, man. Like I would take even protein when I was like 20 years old. Our parents were like, what is that? You're not taking that stuff. It was just protein. Yeah. But like that still is a stigma, right? There's
For
still
sure.
this, it's chemical, it's bad for you, it's dangerous, it's steroids, it's whatever, you know, and it's just a pre-workout. But in fairness to parents, they just love you. And
Absolutely.
I see your parents are a huge influence for you.
Oh, absolutely. They're everything, honestly. They play a huge role in my life. Like I wouldn't be able to do half what I do without them. That's for sure. You know?
So you mentioned that your mom is in fitness, and your father is your father also still active in fitness as well?
Yeah. So basically, they run like 10 to 18 kilometers a day still, like to this day. You know.
So you're like you're capping up a lot of the most important stuff here. One, you're writing down your goals. You're checking them out daily. You have people. You know, they always say we're the sum of the 5 people that we hang around with. And, you know, let's face it, we hang around with our parents quite a lot when we're your age.
Yeah.
And how old are you, by the way?
I'm 20.
20, that's it. So, you know, your parents are a huge influence. So you're writing down your goals. You're around people who are just like pushing you. I think that's important, right? Like
sure.
you were training with Jesse yesterday.
Yes, definitely.
Jesse out there, shout out to Jesse.
My boy Jess, yes.
Yeah, and you guys were like hitting it. And if you got to really be around people who have similar goals,
definitely,
right?
Absolutely. That's actually something where I always called it prep's a life detox, man. Because
prep's a life detox.
Because
explain that a bit.
Because whatever's not meant to be won't be there at the end of it. That's for sure, man. I take it so seriously. It's a little crazy, to be honest with you. People don't believe in the extremes that I take it to be at my best when it comes to showing up to a show.
So just to be clear with people, what is prep exactly?
Absolutely. So a preparation, a prep for a show is a time frame, depending on what type of shape you are going into it, will decipher how long you have to prep for a show for. Typically, I like going a bit on the longer side just so it's a bit of a smoother run, even though it never ends up feeling that smooth. And basically within that time frame, you're just going at 100% every day, and I never slip once until show day. That's 100%. Like people don't believe me when I say this as well, but I don't miss 1 gram on any meal ever.
Oh, I see you with your scissors cutting up your food, and like I think I'm pretty disciplined, but you make me look like a joke, man. While you're talking about the lead up to the show, and you laughed about, even though it's not smooth. It's not smooth. And I think it's a great thing about you, Luca, is that you make it look like there's no problem with life. You're a great guy, and you certainly don't project any negativity. You're super positive. But tell us, tell us a little bit about like forked is really we're acknowledging that in life, we hit these forks in the road, and life's not always so easy to manage. And like as a bodybuilder, as a professional athlete, what do you have to give up to get what you've got?
The honest answer to that is literally whatever it takes, because every prep is different. Life will throw anything and anything at you, when you're chasing your goals. And this prep was a disaster, honestly. Like it was a shit show, but I never slipped once. I could proudly say that. But
a disaster how?
Yeah, definitely. Like the curveballs were on another level, that's for sure. Like I went into it where it was my fault. I knew where this is something I want to do with my life, So I went in with the most extreme mentality somebody can have, where it was, don't talk to me, don't bother me. I'm on a mission.
That's serious.
I'm getting this done. Don't ask me to come to your cousin's brother's sister's dinner. Don't ask me to go to my mom's this. Don't ask me. No, I'm getting it done.
You know what? Man, you laugh, and I get why you're laughing. But in that, man, it's like if people aren't into those kinds of goals, listen, if somebody's going to med school or law school and they're digging it out and they're don't talk to me, don't call me, don't ask me to go to the bar, I am studying.
Yes.
Okay, but why doesn't that apply when I want to go to competition as a bodybuilder? I'm a professional athlete. This is important to me. Don't talk to me. Don't ask me to go to my sister's wedding, whatever. I'm in prep mode. Now, obviously, that creates a disconnect with people. You must have, how do you hold down relationships?
Well, the biggest thing is that bodybuilding is a purpose-driven lifestyle, and it's the only sport on the planet where you have to get something done legit 24/7 every hour of the day. I will never discredit another sport, but if you're not training, you're eating. If you're not eating, you're cooking. If you're not cooking, you're sleeping. If you're not sleeping, you're getting a rehab. If you're not rehab, you're posing. If you're not posing, there is always something to do. And if there's not something to do, you better go to bed and rest, because if you could get more rest in, that's good. You know what I mean?
It's true, because not every sport has the nutrition is important for energy, but we've read many times when in the Olympics, the athletes are hitting the McDonald's or something like that. So we know that there's certain sports that don't necessarily require such strict nutritional practices, right?
Absolutely. And it's like, even when I'm hitting a workout, even if that workout was only an hour and a half or an hour and a bit or something like that, like, you better believe that 90 minutes before, my head's in the game, like I'm prepping for my workout. I'm prepping for my cardio session. I'm prepping to go to bed because I need those 8 hours,
So how do you deal with I'm really curious about this. Because even though I'm not a bodybuilder, clearly, I take super good care of myself. My nutrition is on point. My training is on point. My bedtime is strict. And I've built a circle around me of people who understand that that's who I am and they respect my choices. But when you're 20 years old and your sport is bodybuilding, people have a tendency to really lump you into a category of, this guy's just conceited. He just wants to look good. He just wants to be big. He's always posing in the mirror. He's looking at himself. And can you talk to me a little bit about how you deal with that side, or the general? Listen, I'm not lumping all the public into one pile here. I'm just saying there is a general public opinion that that's what you are.
I'll be completely honest with you, Sean, and that's definitely a public opinion, but I never really felt that. I don't know if I'm like just blind or whatnot. I feel like people get it. The hardest part for me, I feel like, I don't know, maybe I live in my own world or something, I never felt judged that much. I hear people say things and this and that. I couldn't really care less, to be honest, The hardest thing for me is the social aspect, in the sense where, I never want to make someone feel disrespected. Like when I first, when I first had gotten into a relationship, that was something I'd always said. When you first meet somebody's family and stuff like that, a huge part of connection and interaction is food, drinking, laughing, wine. My first impression was, look at this kid pull up with his Tupperware to her grandmother's house. That was like,
Yeah.
It's a hostile vibe, because I know as if I was in the outside, they'd be like, yo, who does this kid think he is? He's pulling up with his Tupperware like he doesn't want to eat our food, That's why socially you give I don't want to give off that vibe, but it's kind of maybe a snobby, like, what you don't want to eat our food,
But that I'm really glad you brought that up, because that is a thing with even people who are trying to, we're both personal trainers. So we know we have some clients who are trying to shed some weight, say, and they get a lot of anxiety around family events, because they know that they're going to be asked, hey, why aren't you eating the bread, or why aren't you eating the pasta? And it creates a tremendous amount of anxiety for people. So maybe you can give some advice to some people listening who are not necessarily bodybuilders are all out there saying, yeah, Luca, I feel the same. I don't give a shit. Well, there are people, what they think about me and my posing in the mirror, they don't care. And hats off, man. I so respect that because it comes back to your vision and your goal. When you know what you want and you're focused on it, you don't care what other people think. You'll receive advice, but judgments are off the table. And that's why I think you say, no, I don't feel it. You know why you don't feel it? Because you don't care.
You're like, absolutely not. Like, I really don't.
Yeah. I respect that, man. And so now people who are going to these events, man, and they want, dude, I do. Like, I you know what? I big shout out to my family out there. Like, even my extended family, my brother-in-law. If he knows I'm coming, he cooks fish, even though everybody else is eating meat. And people take care of me. They understand my goals and they understand how important they are to me because they never see me fall off base. I mean, I'll cheat once in a while on something, but I think it's in the point that if you show people you are serious about your goals, they want to support you. But if they see you flip-flopping, maybe they're like, well, come on, just have the break.
Like be real with yourself, man. We know you're going to be cheating. Like, yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Like, we know you're going to, like, that's the vibe. People read your energy. They read your vibe when you're serious about something. And I don't give off one piece of energy that I'm not serious about what I'm doing. Like, I'll get insulted if somebody says, what, you think a bite of that'll do something? I'm mad, you know? Like, I'm like, who do you think you are? You know? Yeah. But my advice back to like what your question said is, and I say this to all my clients as well, I said, mark my words, man. First they ask why, then they ask how.
First they ask why, and then they ask how.
And that's the truth, man. I have this. I'm experiencing that. This is one of my clients right now, Robert Harrington. Shout out to you, brother. I love you.
Say that name again.
Robert Harrington.
Okay.
So he just lost 18 pounds in his first month working together. You know, at first he started pulling up to work, you know, with his chicken and stuff. And the other guys are like, what are you doing? You know, what are you doing? I said, oh, mark my words. They're going to see you lose a bit. Then they're going to start copying you, man. Then they're going to start asking you, yo, you mind sending me a copy of your meal plan, man? Man, what's the trick? You know, like,
and free advice, right?
And then the same thing. I start posting like comp pics and be like, "Yo, you're so lucky, man. You're so this. What are you talking about? Didn't you just see me dying every morning at 5 on the cardio? Like, Did you see me eating asparagus for like 20 weeks?
What were you doing the other day? You never said what you did on your fast and cardio. Did you finally do 60 or 90 minutes? What was it?
I did over 90, man. I wasn't playing. I was gonna make a story about it, but I was like, you know what? I'm gonna keep it low key this time around. But I went over 90 that day.
Wow, man. Oh, listen. So I think I just want to break that down for a second because it's so valuable. You write your goals down, man. That's on your chalkboard, visible. You surround yourself with like-minded people who are just into the same, not the same goals, but the same, self-care and just training. Your vision for your goal is so clear that the opinions of others don't invade your space. I think that's super cool. Now, you talked about, the family gatherings, the relationships, and I just wanted to come back to my one question, which was if there are people who are trying to lose weight, like your buddy just pulled off, what can you tell them about those family events and how should they proceed, man? How do they get past that sort of apprehension to look different and not participate?
Absolutely. The best thing I could say towards that is make it greater than yourself. Don't make the goal really clear and make it really deep and make it about put it on somebody else's head. So I still remember my first show, for example. My first show, I was like a 17, 18-year-old kid, okay? I was a gym rat in the sense where I was working at the gym. Yeah, still am, but when you're weighing your meals and everything is calculated, you're more of an athlete. Now I could say, I'm living an athlete's life. Back then I was eating like 4 protein cookies a day, 4 scoops of protein a day, eating McDonald's at night because I wanted extra gains. You know what that's a gym rat. So I was living that lifestyle. There was no 17, 18-year-old kids who were like had muscle like that. But my body fat was like 21%, which is way too high in my opinion. You should definitely be within 15 or a bit lower. So I decided, you know what? I might have a bit of potential in this, you know, let's see what happens. So, you know, you always have those people. I don't have a lot of doubters. I don't feel like I do, but there was one particular person who felt like I was going to drop out of the show. So I was working at $10 an hour job, and I decided we made a $2,500 bet that I was going to finish top 3 at my first show. And I didn't even pick out my coach yet.
Wow, man.
Yeah. Yeah. So I was like, wow. I was like, okay, like maybe I have $2,500, but like I can't afford it to lose this bet right now. So then I was like, okay. And I just met my girlfriend at the time. So I had no idea what I was getting myself into, you know? So I was like, okay, one, I can't lose this $2,500. 2, I can't bitch out of this prep because she's going to think I'm not a man of my word, because I'm like, I'm going to do this show and I'm going to win it, you know?
But that's another point. You're putting a lot on the line, right? Sometimes you got to put a lot on the line to really...
Yeah, and that's exactly it. And that's back to what I said. I said I made it way deeper than myself, you know? I remember I went like 8 to 10 weeks, like almost no carbs just at the end, just to get in shape for that show. And my parents left to Italy. Unfortunately, they weren't able to make it to that show, but my parents were in Italy, and I felt abandoned just because I was like in a little mental depression my last week. And I was taking a piss and I cried for no reason. And I laugh about it now, you know what I mean? But I was just so depleted and tired and exhausted. I remember that feeling where I was just hopeless. I put it all on the line. I wanted to quit so bad, you know. I was obsessed. with the process, but I was done.
Okay, so hold on a second. That's important now, because, you know, all the glory happens after that, right? When we're depleted and we want to give up, usually it's after that.
Yeah.
The phoenix rises, right? That's where you got to go to the dark place. You know, it's in every Pixar film or anything. You got to go to the darkness, the toughest place. And from there, we learn our lessons and we emerge a better version of our previous self.
Absolutely.
So how do you not quit, Luca?
Well, for me, I was on cloud 9. Okay. I had finished 2nd and 3rd in that show, which I was definitely not happy with the placings, but I was still ecstatic by the results. Okay. Not by the results, but that I had completed my goal, and I knew I'd given everything to it. It was my first show. I never cheated. There's mistakes because I was new to the experience, but I never cheated, like 0. And to this day, I could say that not 1 gram, and people still think I'm crazy. Like when I tell you how extreme I take these preps, and people don't believe me when I say this part too, I don't let myself watch horror movies or thrillers, especially on my last prep, just because I don't like putting my stress on my mind or my body.
Interesting. No, that makes sense.
Yeah, I don't like putting myself in uncomfortable situations. I'm not going to say all the time, like, oh, if someone wants to go watch a horror movie, I'm going to say, no, you know, but especially my last show where I isolated myself maybe to a very extreme, nothing. If somebody had a bad energy around me, I was out of the room. If there was something on the TV, a TV show that I didn't like what was going on, the situation, I was out of the house. Like my mental and my physical state, I was taking care of it because I didn't know how else to react with everything else going around me.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah.
You know what I think is I might say unique, for sure. There's a lot of great people doing very similar things. However, I just want to recognize in you that I think a big reason that you don't feel any apprehension towards like going after these big goals and isolating yourself and maybe showing up with your Tupperware at family events. You know why? Because you bring a lot of charm and caring to the table. And I think that if we're nasty and we're not, we're not giving our best selves to other people and we want to act so different, people aren't going to support that. But when you're kind and caring and you're not asking anything of anybody else, you're just showing up and kind of expecting people to let you be you. And I think that's a very important point, Luca, because I think that for us to do great things, we can't do it by ourselves, and we need the support group around us. And you can't have a support group if you're not kind and friendly and caring.
Like, I'm happy you brought that up, Sean, and those are really nice words, but I like to get into it a bit too, man, but I was nowhere near perfect in that sense. In this prep especially, man, like, it got real sloppy for me. Like, I said a lot of things to certain people and that I can't take back. That's for sure. You're in this mental state sometimes. You take this so seriously and you take everything so much to heart because you put everything into your goal. Sometimes it gets sloppy. And when sometimes people have feelings and people have, everybody is an individual at their own, and you're so caught up in yourself and you take everything personal. So let's say you're having an issue with someone else, and like it's unfortunate, but I saw myself, I was in a relationship for 2 years and we're not together anymore. I wish her all the best type of thing. It's unfortunate that it ended, but it's partially my fault as well too, because I was so caught up, and in a selfish, it's a very selfish sport. It is the most selfish thing you could do. Going into a contest prep is a very selfish thing,
I feel like I just want to say though, maybe I'm wrong, but any big goals require us to get into a mental space where, it can look pretty selfish, but if you want to rise to the top of of the pool, man, like I think you've got to make some choices that could look selfish, and I think that's why we need to I guess being around people who have similar goals can kind of understand that, hey man, he's in his zone, he's after this goal, and if the relationships don't work out, it's probably because there wasn't that synergy together.
And it was a mixture of a bunch of things, Sean. Honestly, it wasn't just that, because there was me just taking my prep seriously, but when I was talking about life throwing curveballs, man, throughout this prep, I'll tell you a bit about what went on in my life too. There was, my sister just got diagnosed with a disease as well. It's a very long name. I don't want to butcher it, so I'm not going to say the name, but it's a spinal and brain disease as well, where there's no cure, for this. So that was very tough on my family as well. My grandmother got diagnosed with cancer. I had gotten a respiratory infection 3 weeks out, shin splints 2 weeks out, but the hardest part there was the breakup, but the hardest part through all of this was just seeing my mom, man. My mom was the one who had to, she had to see me, not only support me going, chasing my goals, but her grandmother died, her mother got cancer, her aunt died, and that happened all within a couple of weeks, Then she sees me going through a breakup while already mentally in another world trying to chase my goals. So just seeing my mom, she's like, wow, it's a stress in her life, and that's when I just started feeling guilty. It was the first time I started feeling selfish and guilty for chasing my dreams. And I was like, I felt helpless a bit. And that's when I started getting a little nasty. And getting a little salty to life, and I'm proud of myself because I never slipped off the pedal once, and I got everything done, and I'm super proud of the outcome. But I know going into it, I definitely it's got to be a smoother run,
Yeah. Actually, you're just lit me up. I think that I did a post on my Instagram stories today where I was just talking about, I was just doing a little promo for a Forked podcast, and I said that don't get too caught up in which fork in the road you take. As long as you're developing the person on the journey, you'll end up in the right place. And I think you went to the show, you stuck with your goal. So I think your initial, the importance of attaining that goal was there. But then after we attain a goal, we step back and then we evaluate and we say, how would I do this differently next time? I think that's just normal, Luca. I think that we make mistakes on our journey towards our goals. As we attain certain pieces of them, as long as the person on the journey is learning on the way, they'll find themselves on that. That's that whole Paulo Coelho thing, the alchemist.
You're absolutely right, though. Honestly, you're absolutely right about that. That's for sure. I was thinking about it. My last few weeks of prep, still focused in, but I was already thinking, I was like, everybody's like, you know what, you just got to take time to yourself after this. You know, you've been through a lot. You got to take time to yourself. You know, that must be so hard on you. I was like, hell no, I got to do something from someone else. I've been selfish as hell, man. I was like, I don't know how I'm going to do it. I don't know how I could repay the universe or somehow, you know? And through all this hard times, I didn't know. I went through a panic mode, and I just tried. And that's when the bands kind of started to come up, because that was through gratitude. That's kind of what got me through the last couple of weeks. Like I was started getting to a little darker place. And then after I started seeing these people wearing my bands, you know, I was like, everybody in the gym had a band. And everybody on Instagram is posting my bands. And I was like,
bands are on, man.
And I was like, I remember in the morning, I'm dragging ass on that freaking Stairmaster on that bike. And after someone would be like, they just come up and be like, yo, I just got a band, man. Keep it up. Keep it up. I've been seeing you put in that work. Just keep doing your thing, you know? And I legit just felt like a burst of energy, and I was like, this is greater than me right now. It wasn't really, but I was like, this is greater than me right now.
Dude, I think there's people overlook the importance of the win the day, the small daily wins. And there's just these small things that happen that really just fuel your energy. I think back to Paulo Coelho, the alchemist, when you're on your life's true path, life gives you all the indicators that you're going in the right direction. You see all the things that confirm that you're doing the right thing. Hey, dude, keep it up. I got a band. That's because maybe you're also changing your mindset in a different way.
Absolutely. And it's even like I'm still running on a high from the show because of like I was feeling, I never felt sorry for myself, but I was just like, man, like when I said life detox, it was a life detox. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then after there was all these opportunities that been just coming through the woodworks since the show, you know, like I've been getting 3 like sponsorships coming in, people shouting out these messages of encouragement, and people saying like how I've been like the impact I've had on them, like, and I had no idea. Like I had no
People
clue.
are always watching, right?
Yeah, I had no clue. Like I was so caught up doing my thing, like I didn't know the effect, and now it's hitting me. I just want to keep giving more, and I don't know how, you know. And I'm just like, and I'm loving it.
Oh man! So listen, Luca, I got one final question for you. It's just about your bliss. You know, I want to ask you, you're 20 years old. Wow, you're very goal oriented. I'm sure you think far down the line from time to time. And how do you see your best life, your best self? What are you doing?
That's $1 million question, man. That's definitely a tough question to answer, you know. But there's a saying that I've been saying the last few years, you know, and it was always living la vida Luca. You know, it's like just living your best life. And down the line, there's one thing that I've got to do before I think to the next step. And I've always said it, you know, even when you're talking to people, they're like, what do you want out of life? And it's I just got to make something of myself before I could think of it. Before I'm a father, before I'm a husband, before I'm anything, I gotta accomplish, I've got to be fulfilled, because that's how I know I could give back to the world. That's how I know I could give back to my family and be the best version, because I know if I can't do what I have to do right now, I'll never be able to do it in the future. And I hate those people, they're sitting in the bar, they're sitting by the campfire, and I could have been that guy. I could have been that, you know, in high school, like I was going to the show, you know, like never. I hate that. I'll never, you know.
I think it's safe to say you're not going to be that guy.
You know, I don't think so. You know, I definitely not. I won't. But I'm just like, that's what's important. And even when I'm talking about giving back, it's going down and giving like a toonie to somebody. You know, yeah, it's a nice gesture. You might have made someone's day right there. You know, but to me, I want it. I got to do something bigger than that. I get that the gesture is good, but I don't know how I'm going to do, you know, but I know my first step is I just got to develop myself to be better for the future, you know?
Luca, I would say that is just the most awesome answer. Yeah. I can't thank you enough for coming here today, Luca. I looked so forward to this, and do you want to tell people how they can get in touch with you?
Thank you so much for having me, Sean. Honestly, I was looking forward to this so much, and I'm so pumped to have this opportunity. Definitely, if anybody on Instagram, just Luca Santalucia, Facebook as well. You know, Prestige Fitness. That's where I train. That's where I work.
Shout out to Prestige.
Shout out to the fam. You know, that's my home. I love it.
Yeah,
Since
yeah.
I'm 14, man, never left. Won't ever leave.
Well, that's all going to be in the show notes, guys. So, Luca, you have an awesome day, and to everybody out there, thank you for tuning in to Fork Podcast, and have an awesome day.